Have you ever looked at your life and felt stuck? You work hard, you follow the rules, you do what you're supposed to do. Yet, you look back 5 years, maybe 10, and the scenery hasn't changed all that much. The same challenges, the same frustrations, the same bank account. What if I told you that the reason you feel stuck has nothing to do with the economy, your boss, or your background? What if the invisible walls holding you back were built by you? And what if I told you that you also hold the blueprints to tear them down and build a skyscraper in their place? Stay with me for the next hour, because we are not going to talk about wishing. We are going to talk about building. Good morning. I'd like to begin by asking you a question, a simple question, but one whose answer will shape the very course of the rest of your life. How many of you here today would genuinely like to have more? And I don't just mean more things, more clutter to fill your garage. I mean more of the things that truly matter. More success, of course, more financial independence, but also more joy, more fulfillment, more deep and meaningful relationships, more peace of mind, more of that profound satisfaction that comes from knowing you are living a life of your own design. Of course, the hands go up, the heads nod. It is a universal human ambition. It is the silent whisper in the heart of every person who has ever dared to dream. And yet, for so many, that ambition remains just that, a whisper, a distant hazy dream that seems to fade a little more with each passing year. They spend their days, their weeks, their years in a state of quiet hope and loud desperation. They are waiting. Waiting for the right time, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the economy to improve, waiting for their company to finally recognize their genius and give them the promotion they so richly deserve, waiting for the stars to align, for inspiration to strike, for someone, somewhere, to hand them the key to the life they've always wanted. They look out at the world, at the people who have achieved, who have built, who have created extraordinary lives, and they tell themselves a story, a comforting but dangerous story. They say, well, they must have gotten lucky, or they had advantages I didn't have, they knew the right people, they were in the right place at the right time. It's the great human tranquilizer, isn't it? The narrative of external forces. To believe that our lives are shaped by things outside of our control is to absolve ourselves of the difficult and sometimes painful burden of responsibility. It's easy, it's comfortable, and it is the most profound lie a person can ever tell themselves. Because what is this waiting really? It is the hope of the gambler, the person sitting at the slot machine, pulling the lever, hoping for a jackpot that will solve everything. It is the lottery mentality applied to life. People are hoping to win a prize from a contest they haven't even entered. They say things like, if I just had more money, I would start that business. But they aren't practicing the discipline to manage the little money they have now. They say, if I just had more time, I would get in shape. But they squander the minutes and hours they have on trivial distractions. Intentions don't count for much unless they are backed up by action. It doesn't matter how many times you tell people what you want to do. What matters is what you do when the world isn't watching, when it's just you and your work. This dependence on the external, this lottery mentality, is a prison, a comfortable prison perhaps, with padded walls of well-crafted excuses, but a prison nonetheless. It traps you in a cycle of hope and disappointment. You get excited about a new idea, a new goal. Then the first obstacle appears, the first sign of difficulty. The first moment it requires real, sustained effort. And what happens? The old story kicks in. It's not the right time. I don't have the resources. I'm too tired. And the dream is placed back on the shelf to collect dust with all the others. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am here to offer you the key to that prison. But I must warn you, it is not an easy key to accept. It does not promise a life without effort. It does not promise a path without struggle. It promises something far more valuable. It promises the truth, a simple, profound, and deeply unsettling truth that, should you choose to accept it, will fundamentally alter the trajectory of your existence. It is the truth upon which every great life, every great fortune, and every great legacy has ever been built. And it is this: for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. Please let that sink in for a moment. It is not the government that needs to change first. It is not your spouse, your boss, or the economy. It starts here. Success is not something you pursue like a hunter chasing a fleeting deer. If you pursue it, it will elude you. Success is something you attract by the person you become. The income you earn is a direct reflection of the value you bring to the marketplace. The relationships you have are a reflection of the person you are. The health you enjoy is a reflection of the habits you practice. Everything in your life is a reflection. Life is not a process of getting, it is a process of becoming. And this is why this truth is so unsettling. Because it is the end of all blame. It is the end of all excuses. It puts you squarely in the driver's seat of your own life. When you truly accept this, you can no longer point a finger at anyone or anything else. You are the one holding the map. You are the one with your hands on the wheel. It is a terrifying realization because it means that where you are is a result of who you have been. But it is also the most liberating realization possible because it means that where you go is entirely up to who you choose to be, starting today. This brings me to the central metaphor for our discussion today and for the life you are about to begin designing. You must see yourself as the architect of your life. Think about it. No one would ever dream of constructing a magnificent building without a detailed set of blueprints. You wouldn't just show up to a plot of land with a pile of bricks and a crew of workers and say, all right, let's just start building and see what happens. That would be absurd. The result would be chaos. A weak, unstable, and ultimately useless structure. Yet, isn't that how most people build their lives? They drift from year to year. They take whatever job comes along. They fall into relationships. They react to circumstances. They are a leaf in the wind, not an architect with a plan. They are building a life by accident. And a life built by accident is almost certain to be a life of disappointment. Today, we are going to change that. Today, we are going to unroll the blueprints. The blueprints for a life of success, fulfillment, and meaning are not complicated, but they are precise. And they consist of several critical, interconnected components. The first component of your blueprint, the very foundation upon which everything else is built, is your personal philosophy. This is the set of your sail that we will discuss. It is the way you think, the things you value, the sum of your knowledge. Your philosophy is what filters every experience you have. It's what turns a setback into a lesson or into a reason to quit. You cannot build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. And you cannot build a magnificent life on a philosophy of blame, envy, and neglect. We must first work on the foundation. The second component is an understanding of the unbreakable laws of the universe. Life is not random. Just as an architect must understand the law of gravity, you must understand the laws that govern achievement. The most powerful of these is the law of sowing and reaping, the law of the harvest. It is the simple, unforgiving truth that you cannot reap what you have not sown. You cannot expect a harvest in the fall if you have planted nothing in the spring. We will explore this law, and you will see how every single day, every single action is you planting a seed that will one day come to fruition, for good or for ill. The third component of your blueprint details the materials and the mortar. What do you use to build this life? The materials are not mysterious. They are two of the most powerful, yet most misunderstood forces in human development: discipline and consistency. Discipline is the bridge that connects your dreams to reality. Consistency is the compound interest that turns small, daily efforts into monumental results. People look at a great wall and are awed by its size. But a wall is just a series of single bricks laid one after the other with precision and patience, day after day. We will show you how to lay the bricks, and finally the blueprint must account for the environment. An architect must know if they are building in an earthquake zone or a hurricane alley. You, the architect of your life, must understand and prepare for the inevitable challenges and seasons of life. There will be winters, times of difficulty and hardship, but winter is not a time to quit. It's a time to get stronger. And you must also understand the powerful influence of your social environment, the law of averages, which dictates that you become a reflection of the people you surround yourself with. philosophy, unbreakable laws, discipline and consistency, navigating the environment. These are the blueprints. This is the work. It is not easy, but it is simple. The work you put in today sets up your future. There is no substitute for it. Effort is the great equalizer. Doesn't matter where you start. The only thing that matters is whether you're willing to pick up the tools and begin the work of becoming the architect. So the question is no longer, what am I going to get? The question is now, who am I going to become? Let's begin the work. Let's unroll the blueprints. In our last discussion, we established a foundational and perhaps unsettling truth. For things to change, you must change. We introduced the central metaphor that will guide our work together. The idea that you are the chief architect of your life. We spoke of the necessity of having a blueprint before one can build anything of value. A life built by accident is a life of circumstance. A life built by design is a life of achievement. So, now we must lay the first and most critical cornerstone of this entire structure. It is the foundation upon which every other brick will be laid. Get this part right, and the structure can withstand any storm. Get this part wrong, and the most ambitious design will inevitably crumble into dust. We are talking about your personal philosophy. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Philosophy. Jim, I came here for practical advice, for strategies to improve my income, my career, my life. I didn't come for a university lecture. And you are right to think that. But you must understand, I am not here to discuss the abstract philosophies of ancient men in togas. I am here to discuss the most practical, the most powerful, and the most influential force in your life right now. Your philosophy is not some dusty book on a shelf. It is the operating system of your mind. It is the soil from which every action, every decision, and every result in your life grows. You see, everyone has a personal philosophy. The question is not if you have one. The question is whether yours was built by conscious design or by accident. A philosophy built by accident is a patchwork of inputs you've absorbed without thinking. It's a bit of what you heard from your cynical neighbor, a piece of a misleading news report, a dash of the limited beliefs from your third-grade teacher, and a healthy dose of popular opinion from television. It is a philosophy of drift, and it will, without fail, lead you to a destination you did not choose. A philosophy built by design, however, is the most powerful tool of creation a human being can possess. It is a consciously curated set of beliefs, values, and knowledge that guides your response to everything life throws at you. This brings us to the most important analogy for our topic today, the set of the sail. Imagine, if you will, two individuals. We'll call them John and Michael. They grew up in the same town, went to the same schools, and now they find themselves working in the same industry. They are, for all intents and purposes, standing on the deck of identical sailboats on the very same sea. Upon this sea, the wind begins to blow. It is the same wind for both John and Michael. It is the wind of economic change. It is the wind of new government regulations. It is the wind of a global pandemic. It is the wind of personal challenge, of a health scare, of an unexpected bill. The winds of circumstance, difficulty, and opportunity blow on us all. They do not discriminate. John experiences this wind, and he immediately begins to curse it. "This is terrible," he says. "Just my luck. The economy is always against me. The government makes it impossible to succeed. Why does this always happen to me?" He lets the wind thrash his sails. He is tossed and turned by the waves, feeling like a victim of the storm. His boat is driven toward the rocky shores of failure and despair. Michael, on the very same boat, with the very same wind blowing against his face, has a different reaction. He feels the wind. He acknowledges its power. But then he calmly walks to the ropes and he makes a small adjustment. A few inches here, a few inches there. He changes the set of his sail. And by making that small, intelligent adjustment, he harnesses the very same wind that is destroying John. And he uses it to propel his boat with skill and precision toward the harbor of his own choosing, a destination of success and prosperity. What made the difference? It was not the boat. It was not the sea, and it certainly was not the wind. The difference was the man. The difference was his thinking. The difference was his personal philosophy. Your personal philosophy is the set of your sail. And the single most important project you will ever work on is the refinement of that philosophy, because it determines everything that follows. It determines whether you see an obstacle as a roadblock or as a stepping stone. It determines whether you view effort as a punishment or as the price of admission for success. It determines whether you spend your time or you invest it. So, how does one's philosophy go so wrong? There are two primary catastrophic philosophies that are responsible for the vast majority of human failure and unhappiness. The first and most obvious is the philosophy of blame. This is John's philosophy. It is the philosophy of the victim. Its creed is simple. It's not my fault. The fault lies with the weather, the traffic, the boss, the politicians, the system. The person who subscribes to the philosophy of blame has given away all of their power. They are a passenger in their own life, complaining about the driver, the road, and the destination without ever realizing they are supposed to be the one behind the wheel. Blame is a poison. It paralyzes the will to act, because if the problem is out there, then the solution must also be out there. And so they wait. They wait for the world to change, not realizing the world is waiting for them. But there is a second philosophy, a far more subtle and insidious one. It is the philosophy of neglect. This is the philosophy of I'll do it tomorrow, the philosophy of it's not that big of a deal. It is the philosophy of the small. Daily neglects that on their own seem harmless. Let me tell you the story of the apple. If I told you that an apple a day will keep the doctor away, providing you with vibrant health, energy, and vitality, that's a simple piece of wisdom. But what happens if you don't eat an apple today? Do you have a heart attack? Of course not. It doesn't seem to matter. And what if you have a candy bar instead? Does your health immediately collapse? No. The candy bar tastes good. There is no immediate catastrophic consequence. And this is the danger of neglect. The failure to do the small positive things and the choice to do the small negative things rarely shows its true cost in the moment. Failure does not happen in one dramatic event. Failure is the inevitable result of a long chain of small daily neglects. It's the failure to read the book, the failure to make the call, the failure to save the dollar, the failure to say I'm sorry or I love you. Each one on its own is a trifle. But compounded over 5, 10, 20 years, these small neglects will build a prison of regret so thick you can no longer see the sun. The same is true for success. Success is not a lottery ticket. It is not one single heroic act. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every single day. The discipline to eat the apple, the discipline to read the 10 pages, the discipline to put in the extra effort when no one is watching. So the first step in setting a better sail is to declare war on these two philosophies. You must eradicate blame from your vocabulary and your thinking. You must take full and complete responsibility for your life. And you must understand the terrifying power of daily neglect and replace it with the miraculous power of daily discipline. So the question becomes how? How does one build a powerful, effective, and resilient personal philosophy? It is not a passive process. You must become an active collector of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. There are 3 primary sources. First, you must engage in serious, directed study. All leaders are readers. You cannot build a rich philosophy on an empty mind. Your mind is like a factory. If you put poor quality raw materials in, you will get poor quality products out. You must be diligent about what you allow into your mind. Turn off the trivial television shows that numb your senses and dull your ambition. Instead, build a library. Your library is a collection of mentors you can consult at any time. Read the books of the great thinkers, the great leaders, the great builders. Read books on economics, on history, on psychology, on your own industry. Read to gather ideas. Read to challenge your own assumptions. 10 pages of a good book a day over the course of a year is over 3,000 pages. Imagine the person you would become. Second, you must curate your associations. This is so vital that we will devote an entire chapter to it later, but it must be introduced here as it is a cornerstone of your philosophy. You cannot maintain a philosophy of boundless possibility if you spend all your time with people who believe in nothing but limits. Their conversations, their attitudes, their cynicism, it's like a constant low-grade poison. It will seep into your thinking. You must actively seek out people who challenge you, who inspire you, who are playing the game of life at a higher level. Your philosophy is dramatically shaped by the conversations you have. Make sure you are having the right ones. Third, you must learn from your own life through diligent reflection. This is perhaps the most overlooked source. Most people just go through the day. The wise person gets from the day. At the end of the day, do you take just 15 minutes to review it? What went right? What went wrong? What did you learn? I urge you to start keeping a journal. A journal is not a diary of your feelings. It is a place to capture ideas, to record lessons, to process your experiences. When you have a great idea, capture it. When you make a mistake, analyze it. When you have a success, dissect it so you can repeat it. Your own life is the richest textbook you will ever own, but only if you take the time to read it. Study, association, and reflection. These are the active processes by which you gather the raw materials to construct a powerful personal philosophy. And here is the final crucial piece. A philosophy is not meant to be a decoration. Its only value is in the action it inspires. A philosophy of health is worthless if you do not eat the apple. A philosophy of wealth is useless if you do not save the dollar. This is how your philosophy, this foundational cornerstone, connects to every other part of the blueprint. Your philosophy is what tells you which seeds are worth planting when we discuss the law of sowing and reaping. It is the philosophy of responsibility that makes you choose to sow the seeds of effort, not the seeds of ease. Your philosophy is what provides the deep underlying why that fuels your discipline and consistency. When you don't feel like it, when you're tired and discouraged, it is your philosophy that reminds you of the price of neglect and the promise of discipline. And finally, it is your philosophy that will serve as your anchor during the inevitable winters of life. When the cold winds of adversity blow, a weak philosophy will shatter, leaving you lost and afraid. But a strong, well-constructed philosophy will allow you to stand firm, to learn from the winter, and to prepare with unshakable confidence for the coming of spring. So do not neglect this work. The work on your personal philosophy is the most important work you will ever do. It is the silent, unseen force that sets the direction of your life. It is the set of your sail. Take the time to examine what you believe. Challenge your own assumptions. Feed your mind with the best materials available. Eradicate blame and neglect. And begin today the conscious, deliberate process of designing the philosophy that will serve as the unshakable foundation for the magnificent life you were always meant to build. In our last session, we laid the most important cornerstone in the foundation of our life's architecture, our personal philosophy. We established that your philosophy is the set of your sail, the intellectual and moral framework that determines your direction, regardless of the winds of circumstance. But a philosophy, no matter how brilliant or refined, is merely potential energy. It is a blueprint, and a blueprint alone has never housed a family from the cold. Its value is only realized when it is translated into intelligent, directed action. And that brings us to the second and perhaps most practical part of our blueprint. We must now understand the ancient, immutable, and unforgiving law that governs all action and all results. It is a law that predates all books, all empires, and all human understanding. It is as real and as predictable as the law of gravity. You do not have to believe in it for it to be effective. It works whether you are aware of it or not. The ancient texts call it the law of sowing and reaping. I often refer to it as the law of the harvest. Now, I know this sounds simple, perhaps like a charming metaphor from a bygone era of farming. But I assure you, within this simple analogy lies one of the most profound and powerful truths about life, success, and failure. To misunderstand this law is to spend your life in a state of constant confusion, wondering why your efforts do not yield the results you desire. To master this law is to unlock the very mechanics of achievement. So let us go to work. Let us dissect this law, not as a metaphor, but as the fundamental operating principle for the architect of life. The law in its essence is this: whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. It is a promise and it is a warning. It is the promise of abundance for the diligent, and it is the warning of emptiness for the neglectful. Notice what the law does not say. It does not say, whatever a man wishes for, that he will reap. It does not say, whatever a man needs, that he will reap. It doesn't even say, whatever a man deserves, that he will reap. It is colder, more precise, and more just than that. It deals only in the currency of action. What did you do? What seeds did you actually put in the ground? Your personal philosophy, which we have just discussed, determines your choice of seed. A philosophy of blame and neglect will lead you to sow seeds of inactivity and excuses. A philosophy of responsibility and growth will lead you to sow the seeds of effort and discipline. Your philosophy is the architect's mind. Sowing is the architect's hand at work. Let us explore the three profound truths of the sowing process. The first truth is this: sowing is an act of faith and vision. Think of the farmer. In the spring, he goes out into an empty field of dirt. He spends long, arduous days planting thousands of tiny seeds. At the end of a hard week's work, what does he have to show for it? Nothing, just more dirt. There is no immediate evidence that his labor was worthwhile. There is no instant gratification. He must operate on two things: faith in the law and a vision of the harvest. He has to trust that the unseen process is working beneath the soil. He has to hold in his mind a clear picture of the abundant crop that will stand in that same field months later. This is where so many people in our modern world fail. We have been conditioned to expect instant results. We send a message and expect an immediate reply. We order a product and expect it to arrive the next day. We start a new workout plan on Monday and expect to see a new body in the mirror on Friday. When we apply this mindset to the meaningful pursuits in life, building a business, learning a new skill, cultivating a relationship, creating wealth, we are doomed to fail, because all things of value are governed by the law of the harvest. You must be willing to sow for a long time without seeing any visible reward. You must be willing to put in the work, day in and day out, fueled only by the faith that the law is working for you and the vision of what you are building. The world rewards those who act, not those who plan without execution. But it reserves its greatest rewards for those who continue to act long after the initial excitement has faded. The second truth of sowing is, you will always reap what you sow. The law is precise. If you plant corn, you cannot go to the field in the fall hoping to harvest pumpkins. It is an absurdity in agriculture, and it is an absurdity in life. Yet people attempt to defy this principle every single day. They sow seeds of mediocrity in their work, coming in late, leaving early, doing the bare minimum, and they expect to reap a harvest of promotion and wealth. It will not happen. They sow seeds of gossip and negativity in their relationships, and they expect to reap a harvest of trust and loyalty. It will not happen. They sow seeds of intellectual laziness, spending their evenings with mindless entertainment, and they expect to reap a harvest of wisdom and new opportunities. It cannot happen. The seed is the integrity of your daily effort. The seed is the character of your daily choices. Every single day, you are out in the field of your own life, planting. With every habit you perform, you are planting a seed. With every thought you entertain, you are planting a seed. With every word you speak, you are planting a seed. If you want to harvest success, you must sow effort. If you want to harvest wealth, you must sow discipline. If you want to harvest respect, you must sow integrity. There are no shortcuts in this law. You cannot cheat the soil. The universe does not care about your intentions or your excuses. It only cares about the seeds you put in the ground. And that leads us to the third and most powerful truth of sowing. You will always reap more than you sow. This is the part that should fill you with both excitement and a healthy dose of fear. The law is multiplicative. It is a law of geometric progression. When the farmer plants one corn seed, he does not get one corn seed back in the fall. If that were the case, farming would be a pointless exercise. No, he plants one seed, and he gets back a stalk with 2, maybe 3 years of corn, containing hundreds of new seeds. he reaps a magnificent return on his initial investment. This is the miracle of the law. Your small, consistent efforts, when they are the right efforts, will compound into a result that is far greater than the sum of its parts. The 10 pages of a book you read each night, those are seeds. The harvest isn't just the knowledge from the book, it's a new way of thinking, new ideas, new confidence, which can lead to a new career path you never imagined. You reap far more than you sow. The one extra sales call you make each day seems small, but over a year, that is over 200 extra calls. The harvest isn't just a few extra sales. It's a reputation for diligence, a mastery of your craft, a level of financial success that transforms your family's future. You always reap more than you sow. But we must remember, the law is unforgiving. It works both ways. One small lie that is a seed. The harvest is not just the lie itself. It is the erosion of trust, the need for more lies to cover the first one, the eventual collapse of a relationship or a reputation. You reap more than you sow. One small act of neglect, one candy bar instead of the apple, one evening of television instead of the book. The harvest is not just one missed opportunity. It is the formation of a bad habit, the slow decline of your health, the dulling of your ambition. Over time, that one small seed of neglect can grow into a forest of regret. So, once you've chosen your seeds based on your philosophy and you've begun to sow them with faith and vision, the work is not yet done. There is a neglected season between sowing and reaping. This is the season of nurturing. You cannot simply throw seeds on the ground and then return in the fall expecting a perfect crop. The farmer knows he must tend to his field. And this is where the next part of our blueprint, discipline, becomes so vital. During this season of growth, the weeds will inevitably appear. The weeds are the doubts that creep into your mind. The weeds are the cynical comments from your friends and family. Are you sure that's a good idea? That will never work. Why are you working so hard? The weeds are the distractions, the temptations to take the easy path. You must have the discipline to protect your new crop of positive habits and efforts. You must pull the weeds of negativity from your mind. You must stand guard over your vision when others mock it. You must have the patience to water and care for your efforts, even when the growth is too small to see. This period of nurturing is the ultimate test of your commitment. And if you do all this, if you choose your seeds wisely with a sound philosophy, if you sow them diligently with faith, and if you nurture them patiently with discipline, then the final part of the law becomes your greatest promise. The harvest is inevitable. The arrival of autumn is not a matter of chance for the farmer. It is a certainty. And so it is with the results in your life. The harvest will come. The only question is what it will contain. I invite you to look at your current life, your health, your wealth, your relationships, as the harvest of the seeds you were planting 3, 5, 10 years ago. It is a sobering exercise. The harvest does not lie. It is the objective, undeniable result of your past actions. But here is the good news. Here is the promise of the law. You are standing in the field of your life right now, and it is spring today. This very moment. You can decide what your harvest will look like 5 years from now. You can start by choosing better seeds. You can begin the process of sowing today. You can commit to the discipline of nurturing your new efforts. Do not be discouraged if your current harvest is meager. Do not waste your time complaining about the weeds. Simply acknowledge the truth of the law and then turn your full attention to the work at hand. Pick up a new seed, a seed of a good book, a seed of a new skill, a seed of an apology, a seed of $1 saved, and plant it then. Tomorrow, do it again. This law is not here to punish you. It is here to serve you. It is the ultimate promise that effort is never wasted, that discipline is always rewarded, and that the power to design your future is, and always has been, right here in your hands. So far in our journey as architects of our lives, we have laid the foundation with our personal philosophy, and we have come to understand the immutable law of the construction site, the law of sowing and reaping. Our philosophy gives us the vision. It is the blueprint itself, showing us the magnificent structure we intend to build. The law of the harvest provides the materials and the rules. It tells us that if we plant the seeds of effort, a harvest of results is guaranteed. But now we arrive at the most crucial and often the most difficult part of the process. We have the blueprint, we have the seeds, but a blueprint has never built a house, and a seed cannot plant itself. There is a vast empty space between the idea and the reality, a great chasm between the dream and the destination. Today we are here to build the bridge across that chasm. That bridge has a simple, powerful, and profoundly misunderstood name: discipline. Now, for many people, the word discipline lands with a heavy thud. It sounds like punishment. It sounds like restriction. It conjures images of a joyless life, a life of rigid schedules, and the denial of all pleasure. This is a catastrophic misunderstanding of the concept. Discipline is not a prison. Discipline is the key that unlocks the prison of your own habits, your own moods, and your own weaknesses. True discipline is not a lack of freedom. It is the ultimate expression of it. It is the ability to choose what you want most over what you want now. It is the highest form of self-love, the act of respecting the person you want to become, enough to make the hard choices today. Talent alone won't get you there. A brilliant philosophy alone won't get you there. Dreams alone certainly won't get you there. It is discipline that transforms potential into performance. It is discipline that turns a noble philosophy into a tangible legacy. Without it, the most beautiful blueprint in the world is just a piece of paper. Let us explore the anatomy of this powerful force. Discipline serves three critical functions in the architect's work. First, discipline is the starter. It is the force that overcomes the law of inertia. How many of us have waited for the right mood to strike before we begin? We wait for motivation. We wait to feel like it. The writer waits for the muse. The entrepreneur waits for inspiration. The dieter waits for Monday. Let me tell you a fundamental truth. Motivation is a fickle and unreliable friend. It will visit you on occasion, and those are wonderful days. But it will abandon you without warning, often when you need it most. If you build your life on the foundation of motivation, you will build a life of inconsistency and frustration. Discipline, however, is a loyal and steadfast ally. Discipline says, I don't care how you feel. I don't care if you're tired, if you're bored, or if you're discouraged. There is work to be done. Discipline is the act of showing up. It is the ability to command yourself to take action regardless of your emotional state. The professional writer doesn't wait for inspiration. She sits down at the desk at 9 o'clock every morning and starts writing. The inspiration comes after the action has begun. The life you want will not be built on the days you feel good. It will be built on the days you don't feel like it, but you show up anyway. That is where success is forged. Right there, in the effort you put in when no one's looking. Second, discipline is the sustainer. It is the force that carries you through the long, monotonous middle. Starting is hard, but it often comes with a burst of excitement. Finishing is glorious, as you can see the end in sight. But the real test of character, the place where most journeys fail, is in the long, arduous, and often boring middle. This is the season of nurturing we spoke of in our last chapter. It's the daily work of pulling the weeds, of watering the seeds when the crop is not yet visible. It's the 1,000th sales call. It's the 500th workout. It's the daily practice of a skill when you feel you've hit a plateau. There is no applause here. There is no immediate reward. There is only the work. Discipline is the steady hand that keeps laying one brick on top of another, day after day, week after week, with the same precision and care as the first. An amateur operates on enthusiasm. A professional operates on discipline. It is this sustaining power that builds momentum, which, as we will later discuss, is the compound interest of success. Third, discipline is the finisher. It is the force that allows you to complete what you start. Our world is littered with the unfinished projects of the undisciplined. The half-written novel, the gym membership that was used for 2 weeks, the business plan that never left the notebook. Starting something provides a rush, but finishing something provides power. The final 10% of any great endeavor often requires 50% of the total effort. This is when resistance is at its peak. This is when the doubts are the loudest. This is when the temptation to say, well, I've come far enough, is the strongest. Discipline is the voice that says, we will finish. It understands that success is earned, not wished for. It is earned in those final, difficult moments when others would quit. To be a finisher is one of the rarest and most valuable qualities a person can possess. And it is purely a product of discipline. So how do we cultivate this force? It begins with a choice, a profound choice that you will face every single day of your life. In fact, you are facing it right now. You must choose between two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Let us be clear, the path to a better life involves pain. There is no escaping it. The question is, which pain will you choose? The pain of discipline is an investment. It is the discomfort of the workout that leads to the strength of good health. It is the sacrifice of saying no to a trivial expense today that leads to the freedom of financial independence tomorrow. It is the temporary sting of a difficult conversation that leads to the long-term health of a relationship. The pain of discipline is sharp, it is immediate, and it is purposeful. It is the pain of a surgeon's scalpel, cutting away the weak to allow for the strong to flourish. It weighs ounces, and it leaves you with a feeling of pride and accomplishment. The pain of regret, however, is a cancer. It is the dull, constant ache of what could have been. It is the haunting memory of the opportunities you did not take, the words you did not say, the potential you did not fulfill. It is the pain of looking in the mirror in your later years and not recognizing the compromised, diminished person looking back at you. The pain of regret is a slow, creeping poison that drains the color from your life. It weighs tons. Every single day, you are presented with this choice. When the alarm clock rings, you can choose the momentary pain of discipline to get up and start your day, or the long-term pain of regret that comes from a life of mediocrity. When you are faced with a choice between a good book and a mindless television show, you are choosing between the two pains. When you have the opportunity to make one more sales call, to do one more set at the gym, to save one more dollar, you are standing at the crossroads of discipline and regret. So, how do we build this muscle? For discipline is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. You do not start by trying to lift 1,000 pounds. You start with the small things, the small victories. Can you make your bed every single morning without fail? This sounds trivial, but it is not. It is the first act of discipline of the day. It is the first promise you keep to yourself. Can you commit to reading 10 pages of a good book every day? Not 100 pages, just 10. Can you commit to drinking one extra glass of water? Can you commit to taking the stairs instead of the elevator? You see, the mind does not distinguish between the size of the promises you keep. It only knows if you are a person who does what they say they will do. Build a fortress of small victories. Each one makes your discipline muscle a little bit stronger. Soon, the things that once seemed impossible will become manageable, and the things that were once manageable will become easy. And finally, you must understand this about true discipline. It is not about being perfect. You will fail. You will have days where you choose ease over effort. The test of your discipline is not whether you fall down, it is how quickly you get back up. The undisciplined person eats the whole cake, feels guilty, and says, well, I've blown it. I might as well finish the week and start again on Monday. The disciplined person eats a slice of cake, acknowledges the mistake, and ensures their very next meal is a healthy one. They do not let one error derail the entire journey. True discipline is found in the art of the immediate course correction. In the end, this bridge of discipline does not lead to a life of restriction. It leads to the only true freedom there is. The discipline of saving and investing leads to financial freedom. The discipline of daily exercise and healthy eating leads to the freedom of a vibrant, energetic body. The discipline of study and hard work leads to the freedom of choice in your career. The discipline of managing your thoughts leads to the freedom from anxiety and fear. Without discipline, you are a slave to your appetites, a slave to your moods, a slave to your weaknesses. With discipline, you are the master, you are in control. Our philosophy is the blueprint. The law of the harvest is the ground on which we build. But discipline is the hammer and the nails. It is the sweat and the effort. It is the force of human will that takes the dream from the paper and raises it brick by brick into a magnificent reality against the sky. Now, let us go to work. We have journeyed far in our work as the architects of our lives. We have laid the foundation of philosophy. We have understood the unforgiving law of the ground upon which we build, the law of sowing and reaping. And just now, we have forged the powerful bridge between our dreams and reality, the bridge of discipline. We have established that discipline is the force that allows you to show up, to do the work when you don't feel like it, to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Discipline is the engine of creation. But an engine, no matter how powerful, is only effective if its energy can be harnessed and multiplied. A single burst of an engine's power might move a car a few feet, but what allows that car to cross a continent? It is the continuous, uninterrupted application of that power, hour after hour, mile after mile. This brings us to the fourth and final pillar of self-creation. It is the twin sister of discipline, and it is the force that transforms momentary effort into unstoppable momentum. We are here today to discuss the quiet, unglamorous, and almost magical power of consistency. If discipline is the engine, consistency is the flywheel. It captures the energy from each disciplined act, stores it, and builds upon it until the sheer weight of its momentum makes it almost impossible to stop. Discipline is the choice to go to the gym today. Consistency is the act of having gone to the gym for the last 500 days. One is a choice, the other is a force of nature. Our society does not celebrate consistency. It celebrates the quantum leap. We are obsessed with the overnight success, the lottery winner, the one dramatic event that changes everything. We look for the breakthrough, the secret hack, the moment of sudden transformation. Let me be clear. The quantum leap is a myth. It is a dangerous illusion. Every overnight success you have ever witnessed was, in fact, the result of a decade of quiet, consistent, and often thankless work. The world sees the beautiful flower, but it does not see the years of slow, silent growth that took place beneath the soil. To rely on a breakthrough is to rely on lightning to cook your dinner. To rely on consistency is to learn how to build a fire. One is a game of chance, the other is a matter of skill. Let me give you a better analogy. Imagine an old-fashioned water pump in a village square. To get water, you must pump a long, heavy iron handle. A young, impatient man comes to the pump. He grabs the handle and pumps with incredible intensity, up and down, up and down. He does this for 30 seconds, sweating and straining, but not a single drop of water emerges. He stops, throws his hands up in frustration and says, "This pump is broken." And he walks away thirsty. An old wise man comes to the same pump. He grabs the same handle. He does not use a burst of frantic energy. He simply begins to pump with a steady, rhythmic, consistent motion. Up, down, up, down. For the first minute, nothing happens. For the second minute, still nothing. The impatient man would have quit long ago. But the wise man understands the process. He knows that with each pump, he is slowly raising the water level from deep within the earth. And so he continues, up, down, and then finally a small trickle of water sputters from the spout. He does not stop. He continues his steady, consistent rhythm. And the trickle becomes a stream, and the stream becomes a gushing, life-giving flow of clear, cool water. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between intensity and consistency. Intensity will leave you thirsty. Consistency will fill your cup until it overflows. The most important work you do is often the work you do in the moments just before the water begins to flow. So how do we apply this profound law to our lives? We must understand the three principles of consistent action. First is the principle of the smallest viable action. The greatest enemy of consistency is the grand ambition of the beginner. We decide to change our lives, and we try to change everything at once. Starting tomorrow, we declare, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for an hour, run 5 miles, read 50 pages of a classic novel, and only eat organic vegetables. This ambition is noble, but it is a recipe for failure. Why? Because the sheer scale of it is unsustainable. You might do it for a day, maybe a week. if you have incredible willpower. But eventually life will get in the way and you will miss one small part of your grand plan. And because the plan was so rigid, you will feel like a failure and quit everything. The master of consistency understands a different approach. They ask, what is the smallest possible action I can take toward my goal that is so easy it would be almost embarrassing not to do it? Instead of running 5 miles, can you commit to putting on your running shoes and walking to the end of the driveway every single day? Yes. Instead of reading 50 pages, can you commit to reading 1 page? Of course. Instead of saving $1,000 a month, can you commit to saving $1 a day? This is the genius of this approach. It bypasses the need for motivation. It builds the habit of showing up. And once the habit is built, once you are consistently walking to the end of your driveway, it is only a matter of time before you start walking around the block, and then a mile, and then 5. You build the fortress of success not by trying to erect the entire wall at once, but by focusing on laying one single perfect brick each day. The second principle is the power of the unbroken chain. Consistency is a game of momentum. Every time you perform your small daily action, you add a link to a chain. Your only job is to not break the chain. It is not about the weight of each link. It is about the integrity of the chain itself. After you have successfully laid your 1 brick a day for 30 days, you have a chain with 30 links. The thought of not doing it on the 31st day becomes painful, not because the task is hard, but because you do not want to break the beautiful, powerful chain you have created. This creates a positive feedback loop. Each day you succeed, you strengthen your identity as a person who is consistent, which makes it easier to be consistent the next day. The chain itself becomes your motivation. And this brings us to the third and most profound principle, the power of compounding effort. This is what I call the compound interest of success. Albert Einstein is said to have called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. It is the principle that small, consistent gains, when reinvested over a long period of time, lead to explosive, non-linear results. If I were to offer you a choice between $1 million in cash today or a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days, which would you choose? Most people would take the $1 million, and for the first few weeks, they would look like a genius. After 1 week, the penny is worth a mere 64 cents. After 2 weeks, it's worth about $81. After 3 weeks, it's worth just over $10,000. The $1 million choice still looks far superior. But then, the magic of compounding takes over. On day 28, the penny is worth $1.3 million. On day 29, $2.6 million. On day 30, $5.3 million. And on the final day, day 31, that single penny has grown to become over $10,700,000. This is the most important lesson you can learn about success. Your small daily disciplines are that penny. For the first few weeks, even the first few months, the results will be so small as to be invisible. It will feel like you are doing all this work for nothing. You will look at the people who took the $1 million buyout of ease and comfort, and you will be tempted to quit. This is the great test. Can you keep showing up and investing your penny of effort day after day with faith in the principle of compounding? Because if you do, the results will eventually come. And when they will come with a force and a magnitude that will astound you. The 10 pages you read each day compound into a library of wisdom that changes your entire career. The $1 you save each day compounds into a fortune that provides for your family's future. The one small act of kindness you show your partner each day compounds into a fortress of love and trust. But remember the warning from our chapter on the law of the harvest. Compounding works both ways. The small neglects also compound. The 1 cigarette, the 1 complaint, the 1 hour of wasted time, the $1 of foolish spending. They are all pennies compounding in the wrong direction, leading to an inevitable harvest of disaster and regret. Consistency, then, is the act of consciously choosing to invest your pennies in the right direction every single day without fail. And like all great endeavors, this practice has its enemies. You must be on guard against them. The first enemy is the seduction of intensity. The belief that you can make up for a lack of consistency with a short burst of massive effort. You cannot. It is better to walk 1 mile every day for a year than it is to try and run a marathon once a month. One will build you up, the other will break you down. The second enemy is the discouragement of the plateau. There will be times when you are investing your pennies, you are not breaking the chain, but your results have flatlined. This is normal. This is part of the process. The plateau is the period when the roots are growing deeper, preparing for the next season of visible growth. Your job is not to get results every day. Your job is to be consistent every day. The results will take care of themselves. And the third enemy is the illusion of perfection. The belief that if you miss a day, you have failed. This is a lie. You are human. You will have a bad day. The chain will break. The true measure of your consistency is not that you never break the chain, but how quickly you start a new one. The rule is simple. Never miss twice. Miss a workout on Tuesday, you do not miss Wednesday, no matter what. One mistake is an anomaly. 2 mistakes is the beginning of a new negative habit. If you can master this simple, profound force, if you can choose your small actions, commit to the unbroken chain, and trust in the power of compounding, something miraculous begins to happen. The work that was once difficult begins to feel easier. The flywheel is now spinning with its own momentum. Pushing the boulder was hard at first, but now it is rolling downhill, and your job is simply to guide it. Your good habits become more automatic than your bad habits ever were. And this leads to the ultimate reward of a consistent life. It does not just change what you have, it changes who you are. You are no longer a person trying to get in shape. Through your consistent actions, you become a healthy person. You are no longer a person trying to be a writer. By showing up every day, you become a writer. Your consistency rebrands your identity. Discipline is the act of laying a single brick. Consistency is showing up to the job site every single day, in all weather, and laying brick after brick after brick. And one day, you will look up from your work, and you will find that you are standing in the shadow of a magnificent cathedral, a cathedral that you built. One small, consistent action at a time. We have now laid the 4 great pillars of self-creation: philosophy, the law of the harvest, discipline, and consistency. You now hold the core tools of the architect. And perhaps right now you are feeling a sense of clarity, a surge of inspiration. This is a critical moment. Inspiration without a commitment is a fleeting feeling that accomplishes nothing. If you are serious about this journey, if you are committed to no longer building your life by accident, then I invite you to make your first small, consistent commitment right now. Subscribe to this channel. See it as more than a click. See it as a declaration, a promise to yourself that you will continue to feed your mind with the ideas necessary to build the life you truly desire. Make this a place you return to strengthen your resolve. Make the commitment, and let us continue this journey together. Over our time together, we have diligently worked on the internal architecture of a successful life. We have laid the foundation of philosophy, ensuring the set of our sail is correct. We have mastered the fundamental law of action and consequence, the law of sowing and reaping. We have built the internal bridge of discipline and generated the unstoppable force of consistency. You now possess the 4 primary pillars of self-creation. If you apply these principles diligently, you will create forward motion. You will begin to build. But now, we must lift our gaze from our blueprints and our tools, and we must look to the horizon. We must understand that we are not building our lives in a vacuum. We are building them in the midst of the powerful, predictable, and often unforgiving rhythms of life itself. Life is not a straight, uninterrupted line of upward progress. Any person who promises you such a thing is either a fool or a liar. Life is not a sprint on a flat, predictable track. Life is a cycle. It is a rhythm. It is a pattern of seasons. Just like the earth has its seasons, so too does your life, your career, your relationships, and your finances. There will be seasons of explosive opportunity, the springtime of your life. There will be seasons of hard work and diligent protection, the summertime. There will be seasons of incredible reward and abundance, the autumn harvest. And then, inevitably, there will be winter. The greatest mistake a person can make is to fight the seasons, to wish it were summer in the middle of January, to complain about the rain in April. The amateur fights the seasons. The wise architect, however, learns to understand and leverage the unique opportunities and challenges of each one. They do not wish for less winter. They learn to use the winter to their advantage. Today, we are going to study the seasons. For if you can learn to master your response to each season, you will become unstoppable. Let us begin with the season of hope, spring. Spring is the season of opportunity. It is the thaw after a long freeze. It can come in many forms: a new job offer, a brilliant idea for a business, the beginning of a new relationship, a surge of inspiration to finally get your health in order. Spring is when the soil of your life is fertile and ready for new seeds. The primary challenge of spring is twofold. The first is to simply recognize it. Some people have become so accustomed to the cold, barren ground of their personal winter that they don't even notice when the opportunity to plant has arrived. They are asleep at the dawn of their own new beginning. The second challenge is timidity. Spring requires bold, decisive, massive action. This is not the time to be hesitant. This is not the time to overanalyze. This is the time to get out into the field and plant. The effort you put in during the short window of spring will disproportionately determine the size of your harvest in the fall. You cannot have a casual spring and an abundant autumn. It defies the law. So the action for spring is urgency. When an idea is hot, you must act on it. When an opportunity presents itself, you must seize it. You must take your well-crafted philosophy, your new goals, and your renewed discipline, and you must sow with vigor. Plant the seeds of your future with relentless effort. After the flurry of spring planting comes the long, hot season of summer. Summer is the season of growth, but also of protection. Your seeds have sprouted. Your new business has its first few customers. Your new workout routine is starting to feel like a habit. Things are growing. But with this growth comes the inevitable challenges. In summer, the weeds begin to appear. The weeds are the small daily problems that threaten to choke your new growth. The weeds are the doubts that creep into your mind. The pests also arrive in summer. The pests are the naysayers, the cynics, the friends and family who tell you that will never work, or why are you trying so hard? Summer is also the season of intense heat. It requires diligent, sustained, and often difficult work. It is the test of your consistency. It's easy to be excited in spring. But can you keep tending to your field under the hot sun of summer, day after day, when the harvest is still a distant promise? The action for summer is diligence and protection. You must have the discipline to get out every single day and pull the weeds of doubt and procrastination. You must stand guard over your fragile new growth and protect it from the pests of negativity. This is where your commitment is truly forged. It's the long, hard, unglamorous work of nurturing your seeds so they can survive and thrive. Many people are great starters in spring, but they are poor farmers in summer, and so their fields yield little. If you have worked diligently through spring and summer, then you will be rewarded with the glorious season of autumn. Autumn is the harvest. It is the time of reward for your past efforts. The business turns a profit. You achieve your health goal. Your relationship is strong and vibrant. This is the time to gather the fruits of your labor. And like all seasons, autumn has its own unique challenges. The first challenge is to take full and complete responsibility for your harvest. If the harvest is bountiful, you must reap it without apology. You earned it. Do not diminish your success. Celebrate it. Enjoy it. But what if the harvest is meager? Here too, you must take responsibility. The amateur blames the weather, the soil, the government. Their poor harvest is always someone else's fault. The professional, the wise architect looks at their meager harvest and says, "What did I do wrong? Did I not plant enough in the spring? Did I not tend my fields well enough in the summer?" They learn the lesson so that next year's harvest will be better. The second challenge of a bountiful autumn is the temptation of ease. It is easy, when the barns are full, to think that it will be autumn forever. It is easy to become complacent, to feast on your harvest and forget to prepare for what is coming next. So the action for autumn is twofold. Reap with gratitude and wisdom. Enjoy your success, but be wise enough to store a portion of your harvest. Not every seed should be consumed. A portion must be set aside to plant in the next spring, and a portion must be stored to sustain you through the season that is now inevitably just around the corner. And that season is winter. Winter always comes. There is no life without it. Winter can be a personal recession. It can be a business failure. It can be a devastating health diagnosis. It can be the heartbreak of a lost relationship. It can be a period of profound loneliness, confusion, and despair, where it feels like the sun will never shine on your life again. The phone stops ringing. The opportunities dry up. The world goes cold. This is the season that defines us. It is the ultimate test of our philosophy and our character. The amateur, the person with a philosophy built by accident, has a predictable response to winter. They complain. Why me? This isn't fair. They wish it were summer. They become bitter and cynical. Or worse, they simply give up. They see the winter as the end of the story, and they allow the cold to freeze their ambition and their spirit. They take the resistance as a sign to quit. But the professional, the wise architect, understands the purpose of winter. They know that winter is not the end of the story. It is a necessary and even valuable part of the cycle. They do not wish it away. They have learned to use the winter. So, what does the wise architect do when the unavoidable winter arrives? They focus on 4 key activities. First, they use the winter to get stronger. In the hustle of spring and summer, there is little time for deep learning. Winter is the time. When the world outside is frozen, you go inside to the library. You read the books. You study your craft. You develop the new skills that will make you more valuable when spring returns. You use the quiet to build your inner fortitude. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. Winter is nature's gift of time to improve yourself. Second, they use the winter to get wiser. Winter is the season of deep reflection. You must take out your journal and analyze the year that has passed. Celebrate your victories from the autumn? Yes. But more importantly, study your failures. Where did you go wrong? What lessons has this winter come to teach you? The pain of winter has a purpose: to impart wisdom that you could not have learned under the warm sun of summer. Do not waste the pain. Extract the lesson. Third, they use the winter to get deeper. The storms of winter have a way of blowing away the superficial things in our lives. It forces us to take shelter with what is most important. It is a time to reconnect with your core values, your why. It's a time to mend relationships, to spend time with family, to nurture your spiritual life. Winter is the season to strengthen your roots. A tree with shallow roots will be toppled by the first winter storm. A tree that uses winter to grow its roots deeper will be immovable. And finally, with the strength, wisdom, and depth they have cultivated, they use the winter to get ready. While the world is hibernating, the architect is in their study, planning. They are drawing the blueprints for the next spring. They are setting their goals. They are designing their strategy. They know that spring will come again. It always does. And they are determined to be prepared to take full advantage of it when it arrives. They do not wait for the thaw to decide what they will plant. They decide in the dead of winter. Do you see the profound difference in these two approaches? One leads to despair, the other to renewal. One leads to bitterness, the other to strength. Winter is not a punishment. It is a preparation. It is the necessary contrast that gives the other seasons their meaning. So I ask you, what season are you in right now? Are you in a spring of opportunity? Then you must act with urgency. Are you in a summer of hard work? Then you must protect your vision with diligence. Are you in a glorious autumn harvest? Then you must reap with gratitude and prepare with wisdom. Or are you perhaps in a winter? Does it feel cold and dark in your life right now? Then know this: it is not the end. It is your time to get stronger, wiser, and deeper. It is your time to plan your comeback. Your spring is being prepared for you right now beneath the frozen ground. The architect who understands the seasons is never a victim of them. They build a life that can withstand the storms and flourish in the sun. They know when to act when to protect, when to celebrate, and when to reflect. This is the wisdom that transforms a life of struggle into a work of art. We have traveled a great distance together on this architectural journey. We have laid the foundation with philosophy. We have learned the mechanics of creation with the law of sowing and reaping. We have built the internal structures of discipline and consistency. And we have learned to navigate the inevitable cycles of challenge and opportunity through the seasons of life. If you have taken these ideas to heart, you are now engaged in the active process of building. You are laying the bricks of new habits. You are cultivating the garden of your mind. You are becoming a person of substance, of purpose, and of will. But now, we must discuss the final and perhaps most powerful factor in the success of any structure. A wise architect does not only concern themselves with the design of the building itself, they are intensely aware of the environment in which the building is placed. You can design the most magnificent mansion the world has ever seen with the strongest foundation and the finest materials. But if you build it in the middle of a swamp, it will eventually sink into the mud. Today, we must talk about your swamp, and we must talk about how to get out of it. We are here to discuss the invisible, silent, and overwhelmingly powerful force known as the law of averages. The law is simple to state, but its implications are staggering. It is this: you will become the combined average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Let me repeat that, because nothing we discuss today is more important. You will become the combined average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their attitudes, their health habits, their income, and their ambitions will slowly, imperceptibly, and inevitably become your own. This is not a theory. This is a law. It is a form of gravity. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. But it is pulling on you right now, every single day. It is either pulling you up toward the life you dream of, or it is pulling you down into a life of quiet mediocrity. There is no neutral ground. Imagine your life. Your ambition, your positive attitude is a delicate flame. If you surround that flame with 4 other bright, burning fires, the collective heat becomes a powerful furnace. But if you surround that same flame with 4 blocks of ice, their cold, dampening influence will eventually extinguish your fire, no matter how brightly you thought it could burn. This is the invisible architect at work in your life. While you are consciously trying to build, your environment is unconsciously shaping the very structure you are creating. It is the most powerful force for good or for ill. You cannot build a life of success if you are living in a daily environment of failure. So, how does this law work its subtle magic? It operates through 3 forms of contagion. The first is the contagion of attitude. Spend your time with people who complain, and you will find more things to complain about. Spend your time with people who are cynical and negative, and you will find your own optimism beginning to wither. Spend your time with people who blame the world for their problems, and you will find your own philosophy of personal responsibility starting to crack. Attitudes are like the common cold. They are infectious. A single person with a powerful, positive, solution-oriented attitude can lift the energy of an entire room. And a single persistent complainer can poison the well for everyone. The question you must ask is, what is the emotional and intellectual climate of your inner circle? Is it a greenhouse where new ideas can flourish? Or is it a frozen tundra where ambition goes to die? The second is the contagion of habits. Show me your 5 closest associates, and I will show you your future. Look at their health habits. Is that the level of vitality you wish to have? Look at their financial habits. Do they live a life of discipline, saving, and investing, or a life of quiet financial desperation, always one paycheck away from disaster? Look at their intellectual habits. When they have free time, do they reach for a book, or do they reach for the television remote? The habits of your peer group create a current. You can try to swim against this current for a while through sheer discipline. You can try to be a saver in a group of spenders. You can try to be a health enthusiast in a group of people who neglect their bodies. But it is exhausting. And eventually, the powerful pull of the current will begin to wear you down. It is infinitely easier to change your direction by simply getting into a current that is already flowing where you want to go. The third and most critical is the contagion of ambition. This is the most subtle and most dangerous contagion of all. Your level of personal ambition, your vision for what is possible for your life, will almost certainly shrink or expand to meet the expectations of your peer group. If you are surrounded by people who are content with just getting by, your own burning desire for excellence will begin to feel awkward. Your discipline will be seen as strange. Your ambition will be perceived as a threat. And to maintain social harmony, you will subconsciously begin to lower your own standards. You will dim your own light so as not to make others uncomfortable. This is the silent killer of all great potential. On the other hand, if you place yourself in a group of people who are playing the game of life at a higher level, something magical happens. Your own standards begin to rise. Their accomplishments don't intimidate you, they inspire you. Their conversation about big ideas and bold projects makes your own dreams seem not only possible, but necessary. You are forced to grow just to keep up with the conversation. This is why the old saying is so profoundly true. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So now, we must engage in a difficult but necessary exercise. We must conduct an audit of our own inner circle. I want you to think right now of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. It could be friends, family, or coworkers. And for each person, I want you to ask 3 brutally honest questions. First, what does this person have me thinking? Are my thoughts more expansive, more positive, more focused on solutions because of them? Or are they smaller, more cynical, more focused on problems? Second, what does this person have me doing? Are their habits encouraging me to read more, to work harder, to live healthier? Or are they influencing me to waste time, to compromise my standards, to neglect my goals? And third, the most important question of all, what does this person have me becoming? Am I becoming a better, stronger, wiser version of myself through my association with them? Or am I becoming a more complacent, more negative, and more diminished version? This audit is not an exercise in judgment. It is an exercise in awareness. You are the architect. You must be aware of the quality of the materials and influences around you. And I know this can be painful. What do you do if you discover that one of the primary negative influences in your life is a close friend you've had for 20 years, or even a beloved family member? This is one of the most difficult challenges on the path to a better life. This does not mean you must be cruel or arrogant, but it does mean you must be wise. This brings us to the strategy. How do we as architects design a growth environment for ourselves? The first strategy is the power of limitation. There are some people you cannot eliminate from your life, nor should you. But you can limit your exposure. You can love your family. You can cherish your old friends. But you do not have to subject yourself to hours of their negativity. You can choose to see them for an hour instead of a whole day. You can choose to keep the conversation light and politely excuse yourself when it turns to gossip or complaining. This is not an act of disloyalty. It is an act of self-preservation. It is the act of a wise farmer building a fence around his precious garden to protect it from pests. You have worked too hard on your philosophy, your discipline, and your habits to allow them to be trampled by someone else's negativity. The second strategy is the power of expansion. While you are limiting your exposure to negative influences, you must actively be seeking out positive ones. You must expand your circle. Find the people you want to be like, and find a way to spend time with them. Where are they? They are at the seminars. They are in the business clubs. They are in the higher level workshops. Go to where the ambitious people are. And when you get there, do not go with your hand out asking for something. Go with a desire to learn and to contribute. The best way to attract attractive people is to become an attractive person yourself. Work on your own skills, your own knowledge, so that you have value to bring to the table. And the third strategy is the power of mentorship through study. What if you live in a small town and you feel there is no one around you who inspires you? The good news is that you can associate with the greatest minds who have ever lived. You can make them part of your inner circle. Make Andrew Carnegie one of your 5 by diligently studying his autobiography. Make Marcus Aurelius one of your 5 by reading his meditations every morning. Make any great thinker, leader, or builder one of your five by immersing yourself in their books, their letters, their recorded speeches. You can have the most extraordinary peer group in the world. Even if you are sitting alone in your room, do not let your physical location be an excuse for a poor inner circle. In the end, the goal of this process is not to become superior to others. The goal is to become the best possible version of yourself, and you cannot do that in an environment that is constantly pulling you in the opposite direction. The law of averages is the final great gatekeeper of success. You can have the best blueprint in the world, but if you try to build your mansion in a swamp, you will fail. So I leave you with this choice. It is the choice you make not once, but every day with how you allocate your most precious resource, your time. Will you allow the gravitational pull of a negative peer group to keep you grounded, forever scratching in the dust with the turkeys? Or will you make the difficult but necessary choices to seek out the eagles, to find the people, the ideas, and the conversations that will create the updraft you need to finally soar? The architect knows that the building is only as strong as its foundation and only as secure as the ground upon which it is built. Choose your ground wisely. We have spent a great deal of time together, diligently working, not on a house of wood and stone, but on a home for the human spirit, a life. We have called ourselves the architects of this grand enterprise. We have unrolled the blueprints and studied each component with care. And now we have reached the end of our formal discussion. It is time to step back from the detailed plans, to look at the entire structure, and to ask the final, most important question: why? Why go to all this trouble? Why engage in this difficult, often painful work of self-creation? What is the ultimate purpose of this grand design? Before we answer that, let us briefly walk through the halls of the structure we have designed one last time. Let us see how each piece interlocks with the next, creating a fortress of strength and a monument of purpose. We started with the most critical component, the foundation of your personal philosophy. This, we said, is the set of your sail. It is the sum of your knowledge and the substance of your character that determines your direction in life. It is the deep underlying why that gives meaning to all your efforts. A life without a sound philosophy is a foundation of sand, destined to crumble under the first storm. Upon that foundation, we learned the unbreakable rule of the construction site, the law of sowing and reaping. We discovered that life is not a mystery, but a matter of cause and effect. What we plant, we shall harvest. This law freed us from the prison of luck and chance, and placed the power of results squarely in our own hands. It taught us that we must be active gardeners in our own lives, consciously planting the seeds of effort and integrity. But knowing what to plant is not enough. We needed the tools to do the work. And so, we forged the powerful bridge of discipline. We redefined it not as punishment, but as the highest form of self-love. It is the force that allows us to do what is necessary, even when it is not easy. Discipline, we learned, is the hammer that drives the nails of daily action, transforming the vision of the blueprint into tangible reality. Discipline alone, however, can be fleeting. And so we introduced its powerful twin sister, consistency. This we called the compound interest of success. Consistency is the quiet, unglamorous force that transforms small, daily efforts into unstoppable momentum. It is the act of showing up to the job site every single day, without fail, and laying one brick at a time. It taught us that greatness is not born from one heroic act, but from 1,000 small, repeated acts of excellence. With our tools and our work ethic established, we then had to understand the environment. We studied the seasons of life. We learned that life is a cycle of predictable challenges and opportunities. There is a time to plant spring, a time to nurture summer, a time to harvest, and a time to reflect and grow strong, winter. This wisdom freed us from the frustration of fighting the inevitable and taught us to leverage every season for its unique purpose. And finally, we acknowledged that we do not build in isolation. We examined the powerful, invisible force of our environment through the law of averages. We learned that we become the average of the people we spend the most time with. This taught us to be wise gardeners of our associations, protecting our dreams from the pests of negativity and seeking out the sunlight of inspiration. Philosophy, sowing and reaping, discipline, consistency, the seasons, the associations. This is the blueprint. This is the complete architectural system for a life of success. But this brings us back to our final lingering question. Why? What is the point of all this effort? Is it simply to accumulate more money in the bank, a bigger house, a faster car? Are these the ultimate prizes for a life well lived? Many people believe so. They spend their lives chasing the rewards. They work tirelessly to get the promotion, to get the wealth, to get the recognition. And for some, they may even succeed. They may end up with all the external trappings of success. But let me share with you the final and most important piece of wisdom in this entire series. This is what I call the ultimate promise. The greatest reward for all this work is not what you get at the end of it. The true prize, the ultimate treasure, is not what you acquire, it is who you become. Let me say that again. The ultimate goal of this entire architectural process is not the building itself, but the architect you become in the process of building it. The money, the accolades, the titles, these are merely byproducts. They are the shadows cast by a person of substance. To chase the shadow is a fool's errand. You must work on the substance, and the shadow will follow you wherever you go. Let us explore what this becoming truly means. First, in this process, you become a person of immense value. Success is not a matter of chasing money, it is a matter of chasing value. If you make yourself more valuable by cultivating your philosophy, by honing your skills through discipline and consistency, the marketplace will have no choice but to reward you. Money is simply a measure of the value you deliver. The goal isn't to get $1 million. The goal is to become the kind of person who is capable of creating that much value. Because if you become that person, they can take all the money away, and you will simply go out and create it again. You will have become the source of the wealth, not merely its temporary custodian. Second, in this process, you become a person of profound strength. Think of the person who has mastered their discipline. Think of the person who has weathered the winters of life and used them to get wiser and stronger. This person possesses a resilience that is more precious than any jewel. They are not easily broken by circumstance. They do not crumble in the face of adversity. They have built an inner fortress. This strength, this character, is a form of wealth that no recession can touch and no thief can steal. Let me tell you a short parable. Two men set out to build a great fortune. The first man is focused only on the getting. He cuts corners, he focuses on shortcuts, and he dreams only of the day he can stop working and enjoy his wealth. The second man is focused on the becoming. He sees his work not just as a means to an end, but as the training ground for his own character and skill. He embraces the challenges. He focuses on excellence. Both men, through different paths, end up building a successful enterprise worth millions of dollars. From the outside, they look identical. Then, a great economic winter arrives. The market crashes, and both men lose everything. The first man is destroyed. His entire identity was tied up in what he had. With the fortune gone, he is an empty shell. He has nothing left. He descends into bitterness and despair. The second man is wounded. Yes, he is disappointed, but he is not destroyed. Why? Because his true fortune was never in the bank. His true fortune was in the person he had become. He still possessed the skills, the wisdom, the discipline, and the resilience he had forged during the building process. He looks at the rubble, takes a deep breath, and says, well, now I know how to build it better this time. And he begins again. Who was the truly wealthy man? This is the ultimate promise. The work is not for the sake of the building. The work is for the sake of the builder. And now we must face the final reality. This life, this architectural masterpiece we have designed, comes with a price. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. The promise is great, but the price is not small. What is the price? The price is effort. The price is the sweat of your brow from sowing in the spring and nurturing in the summer. The price is discomfort. It is the pain of discipline when every fiber of your being cries out for ease. The price is courage. The courage to face the winters of your life without flinching, and the courage to audit your inner circle and make difficult choices. The price is time. The time you invest in reading the book instead of watching the show. Success is not a gift. It is a purchase, and you must pay the full price in advance and in full. But while the price is high, the promise is far greater. The promise is a life of freedom. The promise is a life of pride. The promise is a life of joy and fulfillment. And most of all, the promise is a life without the one thing that poisons the human soul more than any other: regret. You are standing today at a crossroads. Down one path lies the ease of neglect. It is a comfortable downhill path. The price of admission is cheap. It costs you nothing today. But the destination is a place called If Only, a barren land haunted by the ghosts of your unfulfilled potential. Down the other path lies the challenge of discipline. It is a difficult uphill path. The price of admission is high, but every step you take builds your strength, clarifies your vision, and fills your soul with the pride of the builder. And the destination is a life of your own design. The clock of your life is ticking. It is ticking right now. You will never be younger than you are in this exact moment. How many more springs will you allow to pass without planting? How many more autumns must you face with an empty basket? The perfect moment you have been waiting for does not exist. The time is now. Your first step does not need to be a giant leap. Your first step is simply to decide. Decide today that you will no longer build your life by accident. Decide that you will become the conscious, deliberate architect of your own destiny. And then tonight, I want you to take out a piece of paper. Not tomorrow, tonight. And I want you to design the first, smallest brick. What is the one simple, positive, disciplined action you will commit to starting tomorrow, and then repeat the day after and the day after that? Will you read 10 pages? Will you save $1? Will you take a 10-minute walk? Choose your first brick. And tomorrow, lay it. And if you are serious about this journey, if you are committed to this work, then I invite you one final time to subscribe to this channel. Do not see it as a subscription. See it as a declaration of your intent. See it as joining a community of fellow architects, all working brick by brick to build lives of meaning and purpose. The blueprints are now in your hands. The construction site is your one precious life. The tools have been given to you. The time to begin building is now. Thank you. This journey of 1,000 miles truly begins with that first single step. And it is a journey best not taken alone. If the ideas we have discussed today have resonated with you, if you are committed to becoming the architect of your own future, then I invite you one final time to make this channel your workshop, your library, your community. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. Make this a cornerstone of your new philosophy of growth. Join a community of fellow architects, all working brick by brick to build lives of meaning, purpose, and success. We are all here to remind each other of the blueprints when we forget. The blueprints are now in your hands. The construction site is your one precious life. The tools have been given to you. The time to begin building is now.